Hi, I'm Jonathan Black. Thanks for checking in. Over the course of these nuggets, I'll be talking about a number of things that are quite passionate to me, and I'd certainly like to share your opinion on some of these things too. Today, what I'd like to talk about are what I see as the three main challenges that I come across working in that human resource, leadership, and people management space, for want of a better term. And these challenges have remained consistent throughout my career, and I cannot see them really changing in terms of the dominant challenges for the next 10 years or 15 years or so in terms of human resources. The first challenge comes down to the management of talent. Many of us know that the number one responsibility of leadership is how we manage talent, how we A, attract it, B, utilise it, and C, retain it in some particular capacity, particularly in a highly competitive market. Where there is a shortage of skills, very often the local market cannot provide, and with an increasing globalisation of talent, organisations need to get much smarter, much more on the ball, and really need to prioritise the fact that some of the soft skills around leadership that inspires, that motivates, that understands, that generates productivity, creativity, innovation, adaptability of an organisation and a team to be able to survive in what is an increasingly fast-moving market are really important skills. So talent management is the number one challenge that I find. The second challenge I keep coming across, and this may surprise some, is bullying in the workplace. Now, an old-fashioned way of looking at bullying is that, well, that's pretty much how I was managed, that's pretty much how I was treated at work, therefore what's wrong with that? Suck it up and take it is an Australasian kind of term that we come up with from time to time. And most of the time, I think sometimes managers and even some HR professionals see bullying as a compliance issue, as a transactional process whereby we need to manage the expectations of the victim who's made a complaint or how we see somebody treated, and that pretty much the main motivation for dealing with it is to avoid some kind of fine or some kind of penalty. Nothing could be further from the truth. The reality is bullying quashes creativity, innovation, productivity, open communication. It enhances defensiveness. It gets in the way of learning. It affects retention. It affects the attraction of talent. You want to know how your culture is, you watch how people talk about the company they work at over a beer or a wine on a Friday night with other colleagues working in other fields and other companies as well. So dealing with bullying is actually a productivity multiplier rather than a performance rather than not a performance issue, rather than a compliance issue. The international average, using a conservative model of the cost of bullying to gross domestic product, is around about 3.5%. Here in New Zealand, where I'm speaking from, using some very conservative modelling, it impacts about 4.1% of our gross domestic product. We have more bullies per annum in terms of our workforce than experience lost time injuries as a result of workplace accidents. That's an alarming statistic. And even if you look at other countries, you may drop a half a percentage or a percentage point of that. That adds up to real dollar value when it looks at shifting the focus of bullying from a compliance cost to a productivity multiplier. The final thing I'll make about that, and this is something I'm very passionate about, is that we need to shift the focus from bullying away from the victim onto, in some capacity, the perpetrator. Because around about 90% of the time, the situation is resolved in some way when it's the victim that changes their behaviour, leaves the organisation in some capacity, or transfers to some other part of the organisation, and the individual exhibiting bullying behaviours simply continues. Because the focus is far too much on the victim, which turns it into a health and safety issue, whereas it should be on the perpetrator, which means it becomes a performance issue. Final challenge for human resources, I think, for the next 10-15 years, is one that's been around for many times. And that is about how we communicate value add. Now, we can talk about all kinds of bits and pieces in this, about dollars added and people and retention and things like that. But at the end of the day, how do we actually communicate to an audience, to a team, to an organisation, to a broader market, the value that soft skills, communication skills, understanding how people think, making the transition into a workplace easier, getting high quality people. How do we communicate those skills in a way that puts some kind of dollar figure or some kind of really clear value add on what human resources actually provides, and takes it away from simply personnel and being a payroll and being a compliance function that turns it into a genuine productivity multiplier. That, I think, is probably the number one challenge that human resources will have in the next 10 to 15 years. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it greatly. Thank you.